driver door, the passenger out, right? They all took off in 4 different directions. Okay, kind of funny, kind of creepy, kind of dark. His punchline to me was, they were 4 spooks. I had never before and never since heard anybody speak that way to me. I was astounded, my jaw dropped, and I turned and walked away. It was completely unacceptable. But I knew where he worked, and I didn't call his city manager. I couldn't. I knew where he worked, and I didn't call his mayor. I couldn't, and I regret it. And I assure you that if it happened today, I'd be on the phone as fast as I could find a phone. So I regret the way that I handled it. But those are the 3 incidents in my 28-year career where I've seen any bias in law enforcement. So I have no doubt that there's bias in the system, and I'll explain in a few minutes how we work to try to eliminate that to the extent we can. But this is the crux of my message, and that is it's my belief that factors other than bias and racism within the criminal justice system are predominantly responsible for the overrepresentation of persons of color within the criminal justice system. First, I'd like to take a quick look at teen birth rates. Raise your hand if you're a parent. Parenting is the toughest job in the world, and it is the most important job in the world. I had my twin boys when I was 30. They just turned 19 or in college, and as I look back, I know that there are many, many mistakes I made as a parent, and many things I'd do differently if I could do it again. And I was 30. My brain was, in theory, fully developed, and I had some life experience I cannot imagine what it would have been like to try to raise a child as a child. And as you know, study after study shows that children born to children are more likely to do poorly in school, more likely to not graduate, more likely to encounter law enforcement, more likely to end up incarcerated. So data from the United States Department of Health Services show there's been a great decline in teen birth, which is great, and it's across all races. That is absolutely wonderful. But the bad news is there's a great racial disparity between the birth rates. The lowest, which is 10 births per 1,000 people in this category aged 15 through 19, so 15 through 19-year-old, is about 10 per 1,000, and that's Asian or Pacific Islanders. That's their teen birth rate. The second lowest is among what's called white non-Hispanic. That's 22 teen births in that age group. The highest, 49 for every 1,000 in the Hispanic group. That's a 500% difference between the lowest group and the highest group. The second is what's called non-Hispanic Black at 47 teen births. It's not proportional. It's disproportional. Am I saying that every child born to a teenager is going to do badly in school and end up in jail? No, I'm not. My suggestion that folks who are born to teen parents should have greater scrutiny from law enforcement? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is these facts, the reality of life, will result in greater involvement in the criminal justice system for children born to teens, which disproportionately happens in communities of color. Second, I'd like to look at non-marital birth rates, meaning children born to unwed women. Raising my kids was tough, and I had the support of my wife. I cannot imagine raising my sons alone. Many of you may be single parents and have probably done a wonderful, wonderful job of raising your kids. And there are probably many two-parent families who've done a lousy job of parenting. But again, studies show that on the whole, children who have two loving parents do better in school and will have less interaction with the criminal justice system. So how are things proportionally when it comes to births to unwed women? The lowest rate, 26 per 1,000, Asian Pacific Islander. The second lowest, 32 per 1,000, non-Hispanic white. The highest, 106 per 1,000 in the Hispanic group. That's a 400% disparity. The second highest, non-Hispanic Black, 72 per 1,000, 300% higher than the lowest. Again, let me be clear. Am I saying that children born to unwed mothers are doomed to do poorly in school and have trouble with the law? No. But I'm saying that children born to unwed mothers will statistically face those challenges more frequently. And the rate of birth of unwed mothers is not proportional across race. Finally, I'd like to look at access to pre-kindergarten education. I know the value that Rotary puts on access to quality education. And we're all learning the value of pre-K, TK education, getting those kids some level of exposure before kindergarten. And again, study after study after study shows that access to pre-K, TK education increases educational attainment and lessens the likelihood of involvement with the criminal justice system. And my research into pre-K, TK education was heartening. The disparity among race groups is much less, and that promises a far brighter future. But there's still a disparity. The group with the highest involvement in pre-K, TK, again, Asian Pacific Islander, 52% in the United States, 52% of Asian Pacific Islander kids are in pre-K, TK. The lower group, Latino, where only 1/3, 37%, have that same access. So what's the point of these numbers? Am I standing up here trying to impugn one group of people and praise another group of people, or place my Eurocentric value judgments on these numbers? No. What I'm trying to do is use a public health model to look at the potential causes for the disproportionate rate of representation of persons of color within the criminal justice system. And I believe the numbers I've shared with you and many other factors, including income disparity, play a major role. In fact, I'm convinced that even if the criminal justice system was operated by robots, no feeling, no bias, there would still be substantial disproportionate representation of communities of color. Now, I know of no profession that goes to a greater length to ensure that their employees are ethical and unbiased as humanly possible as we do in law enforcement in the state of California. Recently, the city hired a finance director. She's been with us for about a year and a half. That was our first hire for our new city manager. And so he said, hey, Jeff, she's going to oversee a budget of $10 million. We should probably do a background. You guys do a background. I said, of course we will. So we put her through the background that our entry-level police officers, brand new entry-level police officers, the department head, overseeing $10 million. We do the same thing for our entry-level police officers. She, the applicant, her name is Anna Kwong, and our city manager were astounded at the thoroughness of the background. She said she felt like she had drugged through the knot. The city manager said, I had no idea you were going to do all of that. I said, well, that's what we do for every police officer that we hire. And we didn't send her to the lie detector. We didn't send her to the polygraph. And all those processes, the background, the psychological, the polygraph, are specifically designed to the extent possible to weed out racism or bias. Are we perfect in the process? No. We send our officers to training, focus on treating each and every individual fairly, because that's the expectation. And I can honestly say I have never seen evidence of bias-based policing within the Sebastopol Police Department other than the thing I mentioned to you when I got here in 1989. And again, that was not an admonishment to target people of color. It was to avoid people of color, to avoid the need to arrest and tow their car. But as I mentioned earlier, that doesn't stop people from claiming that we are biased, that we are racist. We live in an age where too many people don't want to take responsibility for their own conduct, so they project their responsibility on others, in our case, by claiming bias of whatever nature. We recently had somebody come in to appeal a parking ticket, and their basis was that we were targeting employees because they had seen an employer do the same parking violation and not get a ticket, therefore we were biased against employees. In the same week, we had somebody else come in to appeal a parking ticket, claiming we were biased against employers because they were an employee who got a parking ticket, employer who got a parking ticket. They'd seen their employees do the same thing and not get a ticket. As though our parking ticket efforts are motivated on our bias. But that was their ability to project. It doesn't matter that I park in a red zone. It's you people. You're out to get employers or employees, depending on whatever I happen to be, or commercial fishermen, possibly. Some people want to bend the facts of our enforcement efforts to fit their narrative. Not long ago, Officer Salvador Villanueva, he's our newest police officer, and I were driving down this street right here, headed to Emily High School to talk to the incoming parents of the freshman class. Two women were jogging nearby. They flagged us over and they said, hey, ahead of us on the roadway is a young 15-year-old boy. He's so drunk he can't stay on the sidewalk. He's careening from side to side. We were going to intervene, but we were afraid to do so. We didn't know if that was appropriate. And look, here you are. Would you please help this young man? We said, of course we will. As we drove forward, one of them felt the need to say, don't hurt him. Because, of course, that was our first thought, was, hey, here's a chance to beat up a 15-year-old. But he told him, okay, we'll be fine. So we watched him walk down that sidewalk right there. We intercepted him right around the corner, right out here where you meet. And he was plastered. He was totally bombed on alcohol out of his head. Well, we had to be at Hamley High School. We had a group of incoming freshman parents, so we called the other two on-duty officers to come and meet us. We had a little briefing for a moment to explain what was going on, and we left. And I later learned that they called his sister to come get him, an adult sister, and while she was on the way, his eyes rolled up in his head, he began to pass out, and they had to call an ambulance and turn it into a medical aid. No physical contact with him, no ticket, no arrest, no nothing. And he looked like I looked. Well, a local activist was watching this activity, and unbeknownst to me, because I left, decided she needed to come up while the officers are talking to this young man at the most vulnerable time of his life, and probably the most embarrassing time of his life, and interject herself to make sure that he wasn't being brutalized by the Sebastopol police. So she walked up and said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he couldn't even respond because his eyes were rolling up in his head. And the officer had to ask her to step away, so later she called me to file a complaint. She said, "I demand to know why there were 4 officers there dealing with one young man." Well, there were 2, and we had to leave, and we needed to brief the other 2. She goes, "Well, I believe he was a Latino." I said, "No, I'm sorry. He looks like he's from Finland. You talk to him face to face. I know you want this to be an example of Andy Lopez here in Sebastopol, but it's not. This has nothing to do with rape." "Well, what did you do with him?" We tried to turn him over to a family member, and then we put him in the back of the ambulance because he was about to pass out. Well, okay. Those kind of things are affecting your police officers here in Sebastopol. Not long ago, one of our most productive officers, in essence, just stopped working. And I noticed his productivity plummet. I counseled him, said, "What's going on?" He said, "Do you remember the citizen's complaint I got a few months ago?" He was working speeding enforcement on Bodega Avenue in front of Burbank Heights. We get tons of pressure to enforce the speeding laws there because there's elderly people trying to cross the street there. They don't move quite as fast as everybody else, and they periodically get hit. So we're responding to community concerns for safety. The woman was driving 41 miles per hour at 25. That doesn't deserve a warning. It deserves a citation. So she got one. Later, when she was paying the ticket, she wrote a citizen's complaint saying the officer was hostile, brutal, intimidated her into silence. There was a 4th pejorative term. So we have video of all of our traffic stops. So I pulled it up, and if that was true, I took it to our city manager to get a non-police officer's look at it. And he said, "Jeff, this could be a training tape." She wasn't silent. The officer wasn't brutal. He wasn't any of those things. So I called her and said, "Would you be willing to come and look at the video?" "No, I won't." And she said to me, "I must have conflated the way police officers nationwide kill black children with the way that officer treated me." I said, "Okay, well that may be how those co-joined in your head, but I'm asking you, will you come look at the video to see that that wasn't true?" "No, and I will not withdraw my complaint." So the officer's position was, why would I go out there, risk my life, try to help the public when this is what I get? But whether he feels supported or whether he doesn't, and this is not part of my speech, this is an email that he had sent last night at 11:30 p.m., 11:28 p.m. "Last night we arrested so-and-so after he broke into his ex-girlfriend's house on such and such street. We had to extract him with the help of the sheriff's office and he went to jail. During the investigation, he made threats of suicide by cop. He texted the threats to the victim. According to the victim, as well as the suspect's own statement, he owns guns, at least 1 assault rifle. He's a veteran with Gulf War syndrome and PTSD. He gets drunk and says he wants to be shot by the pig." That's here in Sebastopol last night, 11:28. We may end up shooting that guy later today if he does what he says he's going to do. And that's not alarmingly rare. We get that kind of stuff 2 or 3 times a month. Quite bluntly, this stuff is weighing heavily on whether I want to stay in this profession. I turn 50 September the 2nd. I'm about 3, whatever the math is, 5 weeks away from the ability to retire. And I'm considering it. But what has made me want to stay for now is the support we've received from the community. The flowers, the cards, the food, especially after the Dallas shooting. I'll end with this. One of our motor officers told me this week, not knowing I was going to give him a speech, he says, "Jeff, I'm having a hard time working radar at South Main Street." I said, "Why is that?" He says, I'm sitting on my motorcycle and I hold up the radar gun and then people wave at me. So I put it down and wave back. And that's hard to find. They wave and I put it down. And he said, sometimes the car behind the one that waved at me thinks I'm waving at them, so I end up with a chain of people that think I'm waving at them. And I have no opportunity to pick up the radar. And he said, that's why I want to continue to stay here. So I thank you, those of you that have expressed support and appreciation for your police force. I do understand the need for scrutiny of the police, but that scrutiny has to be informed by reality, not a simplistic or wishful view of how things could be or how things should be. Because in law enforcement, we don't get to live in that world. We live in the real and sometimes very ugly world. So I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. As you can tell, I've got some strong feelings on the topic. I could have easily talked to you for 3 hours. I appreciate the opportunity to have even 20 minutes. So I appreciate your support and your thoughts and the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you.
Come back. First of all, here's your gift. I'm sure you got lots of notes. We have a door prize. Pick one of these and read the number. Read mine, Jeff. 679.
Okay, do I read just the last 3 digits?
Yeah, that's 4.
Last 4, okay. 76, 92. Party Richard! Congratulations, Mom.
Thank you. Well, now, another chance at the door prize. Make sure.
I was dreaming about this last night.
Better win then.
Okay, well.
No door prize.
Oh, wait. There is a door prize. I was going to keep it there. You get some. Could you tell us what this is? It's the onion jam.
Jam.
Oh, that's great.
With bacon. And I put just my cider.
Well, very good, very good. Alan, are you joking?
I can joke.
Well, joke on, bro.
Got a mic? Like my mic? Come on, Jared, you're working. I turned my hand to Linda.
And it's got to be a clean joke from what I hear.
Wait for it.
All right, so a gentleman is walking into a pub and he notices an old man standing outside of the pub fishing in a puddle. He thinks it's odd. He invites the old guy into the pub with him to have a drink, and as they're sipping their whiskey, he decides to play with the guy a little bit. So he says, "So, old timer, how many did you catch?" And the old guy took a sip of his whiskey and looked back at the gentleman and said, "You're number 8."
Happy trails to you till we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.